The Maple Leafs put forth a lackluster performance on the island, and there were some concerning trends in this game, Dave. You listen to Locked On Leafs podcast. Let's get into it.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the March 22nd edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also a writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcast from. You can also check us out on video format via YouTube. It's Locked On Leafs on YouTube. Hit subscribe. New content coming out to you guys each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. Tough night for the Maple Leafs. Tough night. But before we get into this game, just as we were about to record, we got to witness maybe one of the coolest things in sports in a long time. Japan wins the World Baseball Classic. We were literally just about to record, and you let me know, hey, by the way, they're in the top of the ninth. Ohtani's coming in to pitch to close this thing out. They're up by a 1, and he's guaranteed to see Trout, who's the third batter up, in the hole. And I was like, okay, we got to watch this. Put her on the TV, and we got to watch it. Japan closed it out. Ohtani, a full count, strikes out Mike Trout, and Japan celebrates and they win. We actually caught my reaction on film. I didn't know you were doing this, buds. You went ahead. You are a scumbag. I'll let you know right now. And you just hit record because we were sitting here on where we do the podcast, and you just hit record and you left the screen and you got me on tape reacting. Why don't we show the good folks what it looked like and how it sounded when that happened? Got him! He got him! Unreal. Ohtani's got that on him his whole damn career. Like, dude.
You just casually just sneak away while you
I come back and all I see is me on the screen and I'm like, I knew you were doing this, you scumbag, you. But man, like a really cool moment, like a super cool moment. Like, so I'm that type of guy, and you saw it, right? I had to stand up because when I get anxious, it doesn't matter if it's my team, if I'm involved, just sports in general gives me just like massive anxiety, and just like moments like that the end of a championship winning game, like just it always does. And I'm a stander. I don't know about you, but when I get like nervous or anxious like that watching sports, I stand and I get crossed armed. I start doing a whole bunch of movement. And that's basically what everyone saw happen in that clip there. But man, was that ever a really cool moment, and something that Ohtani will be able to take to camp the last week of training camp for the Angels. And he's got something on Trout the rest of the way.
Yeah, he's gonna walk into the Angels facility and be like, "What's going on, bud? How's Silver looking there for you? How's second place looking there for you?"
It's gonna be like, remember those commercials that they used to show on TSN where they had like, was it Niedermeyer, Perry, and Getzlaff all with their gold medals, and then there was Bobby Ryan, the American, with his stupid little silver that he got. And they used to rag on him all the time for that one. I don't know if Niedermeyer was still around at that point.
Yep.
2010? Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was there.
2010, it was him. I remember him, Pronger. Man, that blue line.
The thing is, him and Pronger were like, when it comes, they played together in like 02, 06, and 2010. Like,
it was a swan song for both of those guys.
Yeah, man, crazy how long they played and at such an elite level. But like, that's the type of stuff that hockey's kind of missing. Like, we haven't had best on best hockey in forever. You know what I mean? Like, there's something just different when it comes to, nationalism and countries playing each other. Like, yeah, you've got the best players in the world playing, and arguably you had some of the best guys playing in a Stanley Cup final last year, like Nathan McKinnon, Kel McCarr, Vasilevsky, Kucherov, Stamkos. Like, these are some of the best in the world. Don't get me wrong, but there's something different when, like, you're wearing your team's flag and you're playing with pride for your country. You know what I mean? And it just gets people so excited. I mean, we saw a guy pimp a walk, dude. He pimped a walk because he was so stoked to get on base. Like, that's the type of stuff, the emotion that you get with international sports. We've seen it happen with hockey years ago, but it's been way too long, man. And watching this tournament really just makes me miss that international hockey so much.
It's funny that with MLB and baseball, the one league where labor issues have always been present, they found a way to get a best on best tournament to happen.
Yeah.
And the NHL continues to dig in its heels and being like,
and a true best on best, not this nonsense that we had back in 2016 where it was only NHLers. Like, this was a full
yes.
world event.
And there wasn't no Team North America or Team
No.
Europe. Like, I get it. Team North America was badass in terms of the jerseys and the players that were on it and the young guns. I get all that. But it also took away the opportunity to potentially see Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby playing on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, we just saw Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, two of the best players in baseball, go head to head with the game on the line.
The two best players
Yes.
in baseball, who we would never, ever get to see that because, of course, they're on the same team. But when you break it down to countrymen, that's when you get to watch all that unfold. And, hockey's just we've been deprived of it for far too long, man. Like, it needs to happen. When's the next Winter Olympics? 2024?
2024.
Dude, if the 24 or 26, actually.
No, it's 2026 is the Summer Games. 2024 Olympics are in. Oh, where are they?
No, 2024 is the Summer Games, isn't it?
Oh, wait. Nope. You are right. Those are in. I'm trying to remember.
Tokyo.
Paris.
No, they were just in Tokyo. Paris. Right, Paris. And I think they're back in Beijing in 2026. I want to say.
Let's see here. I'm just looking that up right now. They are in. Oh, no, Mike. They're in the motherland. They're in Milano.
Oh, in 2026?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go. Although Olympic hockey in the motherland did not go so well.
I was going to say 20 years to the day.
To the day?
Well, pretty much.
20 years ago, yes. Okay, yeah. 20 years later, we'll see it happen again. Hopefully, it'll be a different result. But I'm just, if there's anything that I could ask from the hockey gods, anything at all, honestly, it would be to get regular international hockey back on the schedule.
Now, the question being, and the one thing that we were robbed of is McDavid and Crosby together, because I don't know, can Crosby really wait 3 years to be there?
I mean, yeah, I think so. He's not going to be a prominent factor, but I still think he's a dude who could probably still, come in and play a gray beard, like, veteran type of guy as the fourth line center who has been there and done that before, and just for legacy purposes, get him to play another one. Like, he's the last guy to score, like, he scored the biggest goal in men's Canadian hockey history. Like, that, and I mean, Paul Henderson, I suppose, would have a little bit of a say, but like, to do it on home soil, on the Olympic stage, I mean, it's called the Golden Goal for a reason, right? So, but hopefully he is there. Hopefully the NHL is there and he can be a part of it. And again, we do get to finally see McDavid and Crosby link up, but it's not the same, watching Crosby play at the Olympics at what could have been like 28, 29, as opposed to now what's going to be late into his 30s. Bit of a different situation, but I just want to see it, man, because what we just witnessed, the amount of hype that it got, the amount of people worldwide who've been watching. It's not done nothing but benefit the sport of baseball, and it's gotten people really stoked and excited for the sport. The season that's about to kick off a week from now, I think that the NHL should take a page out of baseball's playbook and say, look, this does help the game. It grows the game. It generates interest. We should finally just figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, you know what didn't pique my interest too much in hockey right now? The way the Toronto Maple Leafs played tonight.
Oh, God. Yeah, they were good.
I know we tried to avoid this for the first 10 minutes of the show, but
yeah, it's time to get into it. It's time to get into
it. Rip the Band-Aid off, man.
Yeah, let's take a break, actually. Let's take a break, and then let's come back, and then we'll get into it. Leafs falling 7-2 to the New York Islanders tonight. It wasn't a good game out of Toronto, so we'll kind of break down what happened and get to the good, the bad, the ugly as well. But before we get into any of that, Dave, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors, and it's our favorite sports book. It's FanDuel, and the tournament is heating up. Now's the time, the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's North America's #1 sports book because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's free, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scores. If you're watching the March Madness, you got 3-pointers. You can do 3-point drained as well. And obviously, they've got a bunch of hockey props as well. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with a same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti, the host of this show. We've got daily content coming out to you guys Monday through Friday. It's 5 days a week as we ramp up things as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. And it wasn't an inspiring game tonight as you get closer to the playoffs. There was 13 games to go going into tonight. Now just a dozen after this one, and maybe one of the more least inspiring performances I've seen in a while. Granted, I guess the last couple of weeks I haven't been able to watch much, and it doesn't sound as though they've played terrific hockey, but it wasn't a good one. They lose 7-2 to the New York Islanders. Man, do they ever need to just limit those turnovers, man. Like, that's always the problem with this team. Whenever you look at a night where they lose and lose big, often a lot of the goals that get scored on them come off turnovers.
That's the frustrating part, really. You look at this game and everyone's talking about what's wrong with the Leafs, what's wrong with the Leafs. We can easily diagnose what went wrong in that game. How many goals? I should have counted because maybe I just lost count. How many of those goals that the Islanders scored came off of a brutal, not even a brutal turnover, an unnecessary turnover? Like,
at least 3. I can recall at least 3 of those goals being brutal turnovers. Like, it's astonishing.
It is astonishing, and at some point, you wonder what's going to get through to this team. What's going to get through to the players to say, simply, it's not good enough to constantly think that the turnovers are okay. I mean, they don't think the turnovers are okay, but to think that you got to eventually learn from them, because the playoffs, that's what teams feast on. They feast on mistakes. And if you're hanging your goalie out to dry because you want to be careless with the puck, guess what? You're gonna be once again sitting in your locker room wondering, how do we lose in the first round again? Because that's where, like, if they don't learn from it, that's where the road could be leading them to.
4. The answer is 4. 4 goals and, one. Yeah, 4 goals tonight were off of turnovers. So you had the Liljegren goal, where he just fanned on a clearing attempt and, Fashing shoots it and he goes high glove on Sammy. And then you had the one where David Camp, I don't know what the hell he was doing, just a weird turnover there again, couldn't get the puck out of the zone. And that Pulak shoots it, that gets tipped in. And then what was the other one? Oh, the Marner goal. Right after they had made it 3-2. They keep that line out there. I don't know what the hell was going on that one, but he tries to work his way through 4 guys. Like legitimately, they're not allowing you to break in that way. Like that's just not going to happen. He gets his pocket picked, and Cal Clutterbuck goes down the ice and scores. And then the last one, I suppose, not really a turnover, more of a bad bounce, but the one where Samsonov played it and it went off of his defender's stick and out into the center ice, and a little bit of a skirmish in front of the net, and it gets kind of banged in. So just a bunch of mistakes costing the Maple Leafs, and that's it. They rarely are beaten. Whenever you look at a game where they end up in the losing column, it's typically because they beat themselves. They are not beaten, but they can beat themselves, and that's again what happened tonight.
Yeah, and that's the frustrating part, really. I'm not blaming any Leafs fans that are losing their minds right now on Twitter after this loss because they wasted their whole night. They could have been watching an amazing World Baseball Classic. Instead, they're watching the Leafs like we were lose that game. And there's frustrating being pointed in certain directions, and I don't blame them because this was a game that clearly the players were frustrated. You saw Marner show some frustration, and it didn't seem like there was enough of that from the big boys. I mean, we're going to get to the good, bad, and the ugly because that's where I'm going to point out where I saw the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't blame fans at all for sometimes we tend to say, it's easy to overreact after a game like this. Nah, there's some reasons to overreact if you're watching that game and you see that effort.
Yeah, and it was a tough night for Liljegren. I mean, I think he was on the ice, took 3 minuses. I want to say he was on the ice for 3 goals against tonight. It wasn't a good night for him, and a couple of those were errors that he was making too. So, he was someone who definitely didn't have a good game. So why don't we take one more break? When we get back, we can get to the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of dig a little deeper into some of the things that we liked, but mainly didn't like about this lackluster performance against the New York Islanders tonight. Again, losing 7-2 on Long Island. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. More of the Locked On Leafs podcast coming up on the other side. But first, Dave, a word from our show sponsor.
Yep. If you're looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little healthier this year. If you're like me and you want to eat healthier, but don't want to compromise on taste, then you got to go and try a Built Bar. I don't know how they do it, but they make it taste so good while actually making it healthy for you. And part of the reason is they're made with 100% real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. I'm not sure how they do it. They maintain amazing macros with only 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around and get a box. They've been talking about getting Built Bars into stores, and now you can go get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head over to Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a Built Bar. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you go to Sam's Club and you can get a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie batter or churro. Also, if you're someone that wants to continue to order them online, then make sure you make use of our promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order. So go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti were reacting to a 7-2 loss the Maple Leafs took at the hands of the New York Islanders, and Pierre Engvall was out there as well, who probably is smiling after that victory, along with Matt Martin, who was effective tonight. And that Lou was up there also with a little bit of a smiley face, watching his Islanders beat down the Maple Leafs and show them, hey, physical hockey still works. Try it sometime. Let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly, though, Dave. Look, it's a really kind of short good. I thought they got off to a really good start. They had a couple of real solid looks in the first 5 to 7 minutes of that game. And it was the big boys too who were looking pretty solid early on. And then they started playing sloppy. And that's where things kind of started to go downhill. But I thought that the start was pretty good.
I thought so too. That's the type of start you need on the road against a team that's going to play a very tight defensive matchup. Get that, if you're going up against a team like that, the thing you need to do is get that early lead to force a team like the Islanders to open it up offensively a little bit. Unfortunately, the Leafs did do that. The Islanders came out a little bit more aggressively offensively, and the Leafs decided to fall apart defensively. That was the game plan seemed to be working right at the start, and then it just all fell apart.
Yeah, there was that one sequence about 5 or so minutes left in the third period where the Leafs were just swimming in their own zone. They couldn't clear it. They couldn't even touch the puck. The Islanders were doing everything. They had 4 or 5 shots against Samsonov. He was electric like that. There could have been a couple of times where a puck ended up in the back of the net, and he made some big saves to make sure that the Leafs kept that lead. And then eventually, when you are giving up so many looks like they did tonight and so many giveaways and prime opportunities for the opposition, eventually they're going to start to drop. And we saw that happen over the course of the back half of the game. But I thought that he looked pretty good in the first period as well. All right, the bad, Dave. A lot more to discuss here. What was bad tonight?
Yeah, I mean the turnovers were bad, right? I have a worse thing for the ugly. I do, because you would think the turnovers would be the ugly part.
That was my ugly.
I got something worse for the ugly. I think the bad were the turnovers were bad, just flat out bad. There's and you're gonna wonder what I have for the ugly part, because I think there was something a little bit worse than the ugly.
I wonder if we're flip flopped here. I
We
wonder
might be
flip flopped here. So for me, what was bad was Gustafsson's luck. Just
no, I felt bad for that.
dude, how does that? I legitimately in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's 2-0, and then Sorokin just dives back, gets a paddle on it, and no, it was still only 1-0. And dude, I that probably that save of the year candidate for sure. That might be number one. That's definitely the biggest save against the Maple Leafs that I've seen. I can't think of another one that was prettier that Toronto's had. It's definitely save of the year in any game that the Maple Leafs have played, for sure.
Yeah, no, I would say so. I mean, Sorokin was just unbelievable, and we saw it's not and it's funny because I was like, oh, that's such a great save by Sorokin, and someone I know was just like, yeah, but it's not the first time he's done that to a player,
No,
and I see
he's a top 3 goaltender in the NHL.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I do think when you look at the way this game went, that save kind of was peak Leafs in this game, where they tried to get things going, and Sorokin is just like, nah, I'm just gonna make a save the year candidate just so. I wonder if if that shot goes in, does that change the mood of this game at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I think it does. And even Matt Martin talked about it because they spoke with him after the second intermission on the broadcast. And it was even the first intermission. Anyways, after one of the intermissions, they spoke to him. Mm-hmm. And he was asked about that save. And he's like, yeah, I mean, that goes in. We're down 2-0. All of a sudden, we're chasing. And like you said, when you're chasing like that, you got to open things up. And we know that the Islanders like to play kind of lock it down hockey. And if you're down 2 goals, you can't really do that much. But if it's only 1, you can get back into things, which they did pretty quickly into that second period. And then they went back to playing lock it down hockey, where They weren't allowing the Maple Leafs to do a whole lot of anything. They suffocated them. They didn't allow them to break into the zone with a high level of success rate, and that's just part of the way that they knew they had to shut down the Leafs. Right, limit their speed through the neutral zone. Don't let them get going. Don't allow them to get on the forecheck, and then obviously no rush. Don't allow them to create on the rush either. Something that they're very privy to doing. So Downers had a really good game plan. You do got to kind of tip your hat to the way that they played tonight. Like they had a game plan, a way to limit Toronto. I thought they did a decent job at that, obviously, along with having a really good goaltender. But there was just the Gustafsson one, man. What bad luck for that guy. I'm curious now, though. Like, what was your ugly?
I'm gonna pull up a tweet, but I'm going to preface this by saying that this isn't a one-off event that I'm going to be bringing up right now.
But I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with this, because there was a tweet that I saw tonight, and I'm going to preface this by saying I know plus minus is not the best stat in the world. Not at all. Like it's not a stat that I like to use very often. I am trying to find this tweet. It is not working right now, but there was a tweet that I saw that showed which players didn't show up really for the Leafs tonight in terms of being on the ice for the good plays. And Morgan Rielly, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, I think John Tavares and Nylander were put in that too. They're all not just minus players tonight, but -2 or -3 on the night.
Wow, yeah. So you've got Rielly -3, Tavares -3, McCabe -2, Bunting a -2, Liljegren a -2, Matthews a -2, Marner a -3. And keep in mind, those guys were also on the ice for a goal as well. They scored. So
they scored in this game. That's
it
ugly.
wasn't a good night. That is ugly.
That is like that's why I couldn't give Gustafsson my ugly, just because at least he was trying, like I don't know if what he ended his night as, but that's coming all too common with the way that this Leafs team is built. If your big guns, he was a -2. With the way your big guns are assembled, if they are a -2 or a -3, you're not winning a lot of games. You're not even winning any games, in my opinion.
No.
Because of how this team is built. So unless those guys decide to step up and maybe play a little bit more pissed off, in my opinion, I think that's what when you saw Marner start to get pissed off, he not too long after a goal was scored, obviously in the next play after, he caused the goal to go against.
Yeah.
So maybe just a little too much emotion there, Mitch. But we need to start seeing pissed off players putting in that effort, and like Nylander, I think hit his stick on the bench. Something didn't even get a full effort on the stick break. Maybe he just didn't want to break those new Sherwoods that he's using. But yeah, I when you're a dash like that. I want to see a little bit more emotion and show that maybe you weren't happy with your effort in this game.
Yeah, which there's a lot of people that should not be happy with their effort. I think let me look in terms of expected goals. The only lines that should be happy with their effort, I'm actually quite surprised that these lines had a high rating. Okay, Bunting, Tavares, and Nylander, when they got reunited there in the third period, they had a really good success rate. They outchanced. They outshot them 4-1, 91% expected goals. Had 4 high danger chances, so they were able to generate some stuff. But a majority of these lines tonight, subpar, very, very subpar, including was it Yarncroc, Matthews? Okay, it was only 52 seconds, so that doesn't really count. But Yarncroc, Matthews, and Marner was not very good. They had only 17% expected goals tonight. Not the best, as Louis Domingue would say. That's with 100% ozone starts, too. Ay. I think they got brutalized also in the faceoff dot.
Yeah.
60-40. and Tavares didn't have a good night in the faceoff dot either. Just the 50%, which is not what you expect out of him. Matthews just 31% from him. Lafferty 20%. Like it just didn't have a good night all around. Honestly, all around. I can't think of anyone I looked at and said he had a really good game. Like he tried his best. He put forward the effort that's necessary to get a win. Honestly, I can't think of anyone on that team. Like no one had their A game tonight.
And like some people are going to say, get this out of your system now. Maybe just don't have this in your system at all. Right? Like
4 giveaways for Timmy Lills. Oh, Jeff O'Neill brought up a good point actually on the broadcast. I want to get your thoughts on it. He mentioned like Liljegren, especially after the 2-1 goal that he allowed when he whiffed on the puck in a breakaway there. And then there was a couple other, turnovers that he had made throughout the game as well. And he said, man, if you're Sheldon Keefe, like turnovers have been your Achilles heel, and just a untimely turnover has been the Achilles heel of the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. I mean, does a game like this make you think twice about putting Liljegren in your top 4 and having him play upwards of 20 minutes a game? Played 19 and a half minutes tonight. I mean, after seeing 4 giveaways, a couple of them leading to goals against, I mean, does it make you maybe think twice about him as a top 4 guy?
it gets you wondering for sure, because he hasn't. It's not like it's, again, not a one-off. This has been a stretch where, if we're going to call out Morgan Rielly for not playing well, and I guess I guarantee, Morgan Rielly has a lot more experience than Timothy Liljegren, but everyone wants to see Timothy Liljegren thrive and wants to see Justin Hall sit. Well, Timothy Liljegren's got to put himself in a position to be worthy of playing every night, and it hasn't really been the case, right? Is he playing in a role he shouldn't be? Probably. There are a lot of players playing right now in a role that they shouldn't be, but at the same time, the errors that he's making isn't also on the role he's playing. It's just he got caught in overtime, same play where against Colorado, where he whiffs on the puck. Mitch Marner has to block a shot and almost get injured because of a brain. It's a brain cramp giveaway too. It's not, oh, someone was pressuring me and I had to make a bad play. No, you had time and you just flub it. Like, those are just inexcusable. You're an NHL player. You got to get work that out of your system, because in the playoffs, that could mean a game and like a series ending type of play.
Well, and in the playoffs for a young player like Timothy Liljegren, who hasn't necessarily established himself at that level as a playoff performer, you make that mistake, you're going to find yourself glued to the bench for a little bit, I would assume, and maybe up in the press box when you look at how much depth is on this team. And a guy like Luke Schenn, who has been battle tested in playoff action, and Justin Hall, whatever people think of him, has been battle tested in playoff action. That does kind of perk up in your ear, and hopefully that doesn't happen, because I've really liked what Liljegren's done this season. But you're right, of late it seems as though the game's just slipped a little bit for him, and it's details. That's what it's details, right? But details are often like the most important part of the game. It's often who wins and who loses is who pays attention and executes the little things in a game is often how you win or lose a hockey game. And tonight, details weren't there. A lot of sloppy play, a lot of turnovers, and it resulted in a big 7-2 loss to the Islanders. On a positive note, if you are I don't know if it's a positive note, but Rasmus Sandin is -11 in his last 4 games. Does that make you feel any better?
I mean, you feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, at least he's not being seen as the second coming of Bobby Orr, which was what I saw on Twitter not too long ago.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah. Maybe the positive is that the Montreal Canadiens beat the Tampa Bay Lightning somehow tonight.
That is a positive. That definitely is a positive.
It makes that law that's like saving grace in a way that you didn't drop points. You obviously dropped points, but you didn't allow the Lightning to get that much closer.
The Lightning, like they've kind of been
Not so great.
iffy of late. Like they really have. Yeah, it's they've been struggling slightly. Like they're not completely imploding. I mean, they went on that was a 5-game losing streak at the end of February, beginning of March, like around the trade deadline. And they won a couple of games, and then they went out and they lost to the Jets, and they lost to the Devils, and now they're losing to the Canadians. And yeah, Vasilevsky's allowing 3, 5, 3, 4, 3, 4, 6 goals. Like very uncharacteristic play out of Vasilevsky too. So we'll see if that, goes into the playoffs. Although I think we talked about that last year. And the postseason's a different animal. Everything starts with a clean slate. So who even cares at this point? I suppose that, he gave up a 5 spot to the Devils on March 19th because, come April, whatever it is, 18th when they play, that's not the Vasilevsky that we're going to see anyway. So it doesn't even matter. All right, buddy. Good stuff. That'll do it for us today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasting platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. You can follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe as well for new content. Hit the little notification bell as well so you know when we put out new episodes each morning. Leave a like and a comment on this video down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. And we'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.